More than 15 consultants from the advising firm WestExec have made their way to the White House. This, according to a new report co-published by The Intercept and the American Prospect. 5 are in high-ranking posts, including Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
Great reporting from Ryan. WestExec clients have some controversial interests in tech and defense. Democratic strategist, the maestro himself, Roger Fisk, and senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum, Inez Stepman, join us now to discuss. Welcome, Inez. I feel like we need to have, for the sake of symmetry, a nickname for you, so we'll work on that over the course of the panel. But thank you both so much for joining us. Roger, I'll start with you. So this is based on great reporting from Ryan. We talked about this on the show about a month ago, again based on Ryan's reporting. WestExec producing Psaki, producing Blinken. What does this tell us about the Biden administration?
Well, as we all know, there's kind of a tidal, ebb and flow between think tanks and consulting firms and things like that. Rest assured, there's Trump folks populating a lot of those shops right now as well, or different shops springing up, if you will. I think what it comes down to is really disclosure, transparency and enforcement, and then monitoring. If they had a client X or Y or Z or whatever for a couple of years, and now they're in a situation where they could impact that, I think there should be, and I know based on some of the ethics reforms of the Obama administration, that there are now requirements for a healthy, robust amount of disclosure and transparency. It would be easy to just kind of look at the optics and say there's a problem there, and maybe over the course of monitoring it, if there is, then that should be investigated, and if there's wrongdoing there, then it should be prosecuted. I don't obviously represent the Biden administration, but I'm not going to change my standards because there's a different crew in the White House.
What's remarkable here is the scale, because we're not just talking about the Secretary of State, but the Defense Secretary, who almost became Michelle Flournoy, as a co-founder of this firm, Avril Haines, who is a top national security advisor, several other top national security advisors and State Department officials. These are high-ranking people who then were representing companies like SoftBank, who have very close ties to both Israeli firms and also the Saudi Arabian government. All
representing the same very powerful private interests.
Right. And so Ken Vogel, New York Times reporter, had this to say on Twitter about the size of this. Having covered political money influence for 20 years, I can't remember another newish firm sending so many people through the revolving door between consulting and government so quickly. Inez, when are we going to get back to a place, or is it gone, that where moving through the revolving door like this is stigmatized?
I guess you'd have to go back to the Ralph Nader days, right, where regulatory capture was from the left.
Which wasn't that long ago. Like, that's within some people's lifetimes.
The problem was regulatory capture from the Reaganite right. The problem was that there were too many powerful administrative agencies, and therefore they were going to get regulatory capture because the fact that they were interfering with such a large swath of American life gave corporations an incentive to then try to control those entities, and who get squished in the middle is often small businesses who don't have the kind of money to go and hire or create a consulting firm in Washington, D.C. and play the revolving door game. So, this is not a new problem. Obviously, I do think that Ryan's not going to like this, but I think he might admit that it's true. Corporate America has largely become Democratic clients rather than Republicans. They used to be much more even and even leaning Republican, right? Obviously, you think about the Chamber of Commerce, you think about the fact that Republicans are quote unquote pro-business, and they used to lean Republican.
Oh yeah, and Inez, I think that's totally I think that's totally true. I'm not mad about you saying that at all. It's absolutely true. It's unfortunate, and it's revelatory about the nature of today's Democratic Party. But it's absolutely true.
Well, and we actually have a visual, and we'll toss this to you, Roger. Take a look at this picture. It's a list of the WestExec, the former WestExec employees.
A limited list,
that are now in the Biden administration. You can see people in some top roles, and just generally the length of the list, I think, speaks for itself. So, Roger, my question for you is, Should people be concerned that you have this long list of people who worked for one private firm representing these very powerful business interests? They all represented the same powerful business interests, then going through the revolving door into the government. It's not as though this is new, but as Vogel pointed out, and I think accurately so, this is a quite a pipeline. It happened really quickly, and again, you have people who have the same business interest represented, had those people in their ear when they were at WestExec and had their interests at the front of their mind when they were at WestExec, now in the government. Is that something that people should be concerned about on a substantive level? You've served in the government in very top positions. From the inside, tell us if people should be concerned.
Well, I think scrutiny and vigilance on the part of watchdog groups, for example, there's the Project on Government Oversight and any number of folks that do wonderful work on this, as well as the intrepid reporting of your co-host there. But it's kind of similar to like a speech law or something, which would be to say, then if we're gonna pass a law about this, that like, and then what is it like? You get into percentages of people from specific organizations, or you have to leave.
Ryan said, it's stigma. Ryan phrased the question as, when does this become stigmatized to the point where it's shameful to do it, as opposed to the law?
Right. That's
to the point where it hurts your ability to get confirmed.
Right.
Right. The realm of public opinion and public shaming is obviously much different than the regulatory environment or the laws that would preclude people from. So what you're talking about then is more not an administrative exercise, but more like, how do we shine a light on this, and how do we try to use kind of awareness as like a disinfectant, which is what I would submit what's happening right now in the course of this conversation, as well as this piece and any number of other projects that put these things under a microscope. But I, go back to my original point. If you want to comb through Republican administrations, then cross-reference those with Baker Botts or Patton Boggs or any number of other things here in Washington, D.C., you'll see the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But as we've already discussed, but good faith transparency, and I'm all about citizen accountability and vigilance. This to me is it's like many other challenges that we have in the public policy and political arena. When you get down to the essence, the solution to it is a more engaged citizenry. I'll get that word out if it kills me. And more eyeballs, on it. That's what's really going to drive this. And when it gets to the point where it's inconvenient, and it generates backlash in the public daily conversation, that's when you're going to see people start to rethink these kind of things.
Well, Roger, Inez, thank you so much for joining us.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll have more Rising for you right after this.